All right, so let's get started. So welcome everyone, and thanks for joining today's PTC Talks, where we are excited by having Kim Albertsen, who is the Traceability Lead at Accenture in the Nordics. He will have a session on industrial supply chain traceability, but first a very quick introduction about myself. And my name is Torbjörn Pilsson, and I'm the Alliance Manager for PTC in the Nordics, and we are running all these webinars same time every week, where we invite customers and partners for some inspiration on digital transformation to see what is possible and how to make things happen. And all the past webinars have been recorded and are to be found on the registration site. And the agenda for today is first a very quick overview of PTC by my colleague Carl from the Customer Success team. And then Kim will start by introducing himself, touch base on a few challenges, how to address these, and then explain some of the business outcomes. And at the end, we are also having a Q&A session, so please keep your questions to the end or put them in the chat, and we will pick them up later. Now over to you, Carl.
Yep, thank you. We can move to the next slide, Kim, please. So PTC is an international software company with headquarters based in Boston. We are providing software mainly for manufacturing companies since 1985. We offer tools for the digital transformation, such as CAD for design, PLM for managing data, IoT to connect products or manufacturing operations, and augmented reality to visualize and interact with the digital thread. To you, Kim.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Carl, and thank you, Torbjörn, for the invitation and the ability to talk a little bit about the industrial supply chain traceability, which I think links very, very well to what you do, and that's probably also why we have this very, very good relationship and collaboration. Essentially, all of this comes down to the ability to handle your business and operate it based on data, and what you do is also a big part of that. So very quickly, I'll try to outline the situation in the industry the way that I see it. So there is a push for regulatory compliance, which is in many ways related to traceability. This is not a new thing, something that's been going on for many years related to both pharma, medical devices, the pharma industry, and what we see now also related to industrial batteries. The textile industry is being defined and so pointed out by the European Union as some of the new industries where traceability will play a significant role. It's all about being able to present and deliver auditable data to the authorities in order to document and verify carbon footprint, level of recycling, the level of upcycling. And also there are a lot of operational benefits related besides the regulatory compliance that I will go into also a little bit in the following slides. So essentially, at Accenture, and particularly in the area of Accenture that is Industry X, we help with engineering, we help with manufacturing and digital transformation. And traceability also helps to break down the data silos that exist in many companies today and use the data to establish a data-driven operation. Very briefly and high level about the regulatory drivers. This is mainly focused on what is happening in Europe, but there are also regulatory initiatives in other parts of the world. But currently it is Europe that is the main driver of these initiatives. There is a big overarching European regulation, the Green Deal, and a lot of associated regulation and laws coming out of the EU that it's possible to go into much more detailed study of. But what EU is clearly stating is that they want the industry and society to transition into a circular economy. They have clearly verified and identified to everyone, so it's clear that this will not be an easy thing. They know it's going to be very, very hard. They say it will be systemic, it'll be deep and transformative and disruptive. So everybody expects this to be a big task, but everybody knows and the lawmakers have defined that this is a fundamental requirement, something that we need to do. Behind all of this environmental and sustainable carbon-related motivation, there are also some aspects of establishing trade barriers so that the European industries have better conditions for competition, and so that low-cost providers will have to comply with the same tough regulation that the European industry is doing. And that may be a bigger challenge for low-cost providers than for sophisticated European manufacturers. So that's also an aspect that I think plays a role here. Also, they're doing this to make the EU more resilient and self-reliant on critical products and raw materials. Because the ability to reuse and recycle the different materials will push us in that direction. So one of the main regulations that EU is focusing on and have pushed forward is the digital product passport. I've shortened that down here to DPP, which is a common abbreviation. That one is targeting, firstly, industrial batteries, as I mentioned shortly before. So that is also including vehicle batteries. And that means that by January 1st, 2026, that's information that I have, the battery manufacturers will have to live up to the specified data requirements and be able to produce a battery passport that with auditable, documentable data can verify some key elements related to sustainability on each individual battery. Also, EU have nominated textiles, consumer electronics, and construction materials as the next wave of industries that will be impacted by the digital product passport regulation. So textiles includes not just clothes, but also fashion and furniture. Consumer electronics is, essentially communications, home appliances, and consumer durables. And the construction industry, it's all the materials. The last one is probably going to be, construction industry is probably going to be somewhat more difficult, but there are surely ways to solve it. And then we also have further out in the horizon industries that are related to steel, cement, chemicals, and plastics that will be included into this, and also consumer goods related to food, water, nutrition, and packaging. So thinking about this, it's really becoming more and more difficult to imagine companies that will not be impacted, because this also will trickle down to all their business partners. So not only the companies themselves, but they will require to collect information from sub-suppliers, from business partners, logistic partners, and so forth. So this will impact pretty much everyone. So it's relevant to have an eye on this. So beyond the regulatory compliance, which is a binary requirement, either we do it or we don't, and then it's going to be difficult to run a business in the EU at least. Then there is a lot of identified possibilities to actually build interesting and profitable business cases related to traceability. And I would guess that in the audience here, there are people from multiple different industries. So therefore, I will not particularly, go through all of these, but say that I've identified a long list, and I try to categorize them into groups. So there are a chunk of them that I say can help you manage your operational risk to a larger degree. There are some that would help you utilize the data and run the business more based on exact data information. There are variables that are related to cost reductions, and then there are some that are related to potential additional revenue. But there are two dimensions that links to pretty much any industry, and that is establishing supply chain transparency. So getting a more robust, agile supply chain, achieve a quicker response times, visibility, and also predictability of what is moving where and when. And then digitization, which is what I mentioned a little bit earlier, compiling data across all the silos, so it's easier to do and operate based on data and have a data-driven operation. It is very difficult to draw a very uniform and standard example of what sort of the layout or the architecture related to traceability looks like. So this is a extremely simplified suggestion or attempt to make this comprehensible and easy to digest. This is an example related to lithium. So here we collect information all the way out from the tier 3 vendor in the mining area, and collect relevant events for the raw material into the corporate data repository. In this world, based on this type of setup, each individual company along the supply chain will have their own corporate data repository, and not one big industry-wide or company-wide or European-wide repository. And that's a important thing to keep in mind. And so forth, flowing up to the production company, we will collect relevant data points that the sub-suppliers have agreed to share with us. In the production, of course, there's full control. We can collect all the data points that is desired and possible from the MES system, from the PLM system, from the CRM system, from the ERP system, whatever, and add that to the data repository. That is not the hardest part. The hardest part is getting them from upstream. Then going downstream, we can collect also data from the distribution, from the warehousing, the conditions. We can get them from OEMs, that if we are a sub-supplier for the OEMs, this is related to batteries, automotive batteries. There can be distribution data that we would like. Further down, we can get data from potentially end consumers and the utilization of the battery and the performance, and correlate this to quality of raw materials, to the SOPs and other critical events in the supply chain. And then, of course, also collect data on the recycling and how this is done, and which part are being recycled, what is being upcycled, and what is being completely transformed and destroyed. On top of this, there are a lot of possibilities to set up alarms, reporting, control towers, standard reports, and so forth. This can be linked to Power BI or similar data reporting tools. How are we doing on time? 5 minutes left?
Yeah, yeah, right.
Yes. So looking for vendors that can implement and deliver technology for traceability. There are, of course, many things to look out for. Some of the key ones I tried to point out here. So I think that choosing a vendor that offers a centralized repository where you can control data, where you have data ownership, no matter what happens to the vendor, I think is critical. It is important to have a solution that is interoperable, so it is easy for your business partners to exchange data with you. It is good to build the right dashboards and have the right connections so you can customize that according to what you would like. It is important to have a solution that can scale over time. And it's also good to make sure that you are running on a solution that is flexible, so that when demands from within your own operation, maybe from business partners and maybe regulatory drivers change, that you have a system that can adapt to this. I have seen examples of very, very big companies building standalone solutions, and then all of a sudden the regulatory requirements change and they basically had to build everything again. And that's not a desirable solution to be in. So that was speed talking through a number of slides. I'm happy to try to reply and take some questions if there are any. Otherwise, I'll hand it back to you, Torbjørn and Carl, to take the lead from here.
Sure, and thanks a lot, Kim, for a great overview of this very important topic, I would say. So I could see that we have already, a question from Hemant in the audience. So maybe, you could just speak up, Hemant.
Yeah, thanks, Toby. Yeah, hi, Kim. So very interesting presentation, and traceability from the point of view of not only technical, environmental, and other aspects. It is very, very important to know, what contributes what in the value chain, right? But as far as the solutioning is concerned, so far, I have seen that solutions are very pointed focus, right? They are not considering the full value chain while, having this one solution in place, right? So are there any such solution available off the shelf as of now, which are actually closest to the solution that you are describing?
Yeah. So I think it's a relevant question. And the end-to-end traceability solution, there are not many in this world that exist today. The only industry that I can think of where you actually have true end-to-end supply chain traceability is in the tobacco industry. The EU started to regulate the industry, the tobacco industry, in 2008, the TPD, the Tobacco Products Directive, where they keep tightening the screw from 2008 till 2019, where it became mandatory to have itemized traceability on each individual pack of cigarettes from it came off the production line until it was in the store, and you had to account for each individual pack through its lifetime. Those solutions are very, very big solutions, of course, many integrations, and are customized to match each individual client and the needs. That said, the upstream traceability in the tobacco industry is not there. So even that case, which is the most mature and the widest one that I can think of, does not even cover end-to-end. So I don't think you can go out and find a vendor and say, that is a standard off-the-shelf solution that I can take and implement. I would suggest to always collaborate with someone that can manage the project for you end-to-end. It could be Accenture or someone else, because understanding the bandwidth it requires to implement a solution like this is a little bit similar to implementing an ERP solution. It's a very customized task, and it's a big job to do. There are, however, some SaaS or platform providers in the market that you can use that offer to do much of this for you. The risk with that is that they will own the data. So if they go bankrupt, if they are sold to a strategic competitor, or otherwise you want to choose or change your platform, you will lose, your data, unless you of course have, downloaded it, which some of them allows you to do. But in that case, you will have to have a double, database anyway, and then the whole benefit of using a platform sort of disappears. So for large industrial companies, I recommend selecting a software that you deploy on your own infrastructure, so you control data. Also, if you want to choose and change vendors for some reason.
And okay, very, very, elaborated and pointed answers, right? But see, there are different, and then sorry, if somebody has other comments, but I just have a follow-up one on this. See, enterprises these days are anyway going for solutions like, let's say one ERP solution, one PLM solution, and one CAD, and many other, and they don't want introduction of many new overlapping solutions as well, right? Because traceability is again for the whole value chain. Do you see the possibility of such as like I know PTC has one material management solution for green sourcing, but do you see the possibility of, let's say, ERP vendors themselves or PLM vendors themselves, like coming with a solution, like they have their own solution which goes across the value chain?
I cannot rule out that will happen, but what I can see is all the mature vendors in the market are traceability specialized companies that collect data from PLM and MES and ERP and CRM solutions, and also collect data from vendors and business partners upstream and downstream. And for that, the PLM or MES systems, they are not an obvious choice. Some MES systems are very good at doing traceability shop floor, and many companies, almost all production companies, they have full traceability shop floor with their MES solutions and PLM solutions. That is not uncommon, but establishing an end-to-end supply chain traceability and transparency solution, that is, from what I know at least, is not the obvious choice to use a MES or PLM solution for that.
Understood, Kim. Yeah, thank you so much for your answers. I believe very interesting talk.
You're much welcome.
Thanks a lot. Anyone else who would like me to raise a question to Kim? Otherwise, I had one actually. I was thinking about, what does a normal, implementation journey look like related, to traceability? Any kind of, success stories that you could actually share, and how should you get started, and who should get involved in the process, sort of?
Yeah, I mentioned earlier that it's a big task. It's like implementing an ERP system, and if anyone here has been part of an ERP project, they will know that it is a normal practice to start with an assessment to understand what are actually the ambitions, what is the vision to achieve here, what are the gaps between where we are and where we want to be, and how do we lay out sort of the roadmap to move from A to B. So that's normally where we would start. So there is a common baseline for where we are going and why we're doing it, and then based on that, build a blueprint and maybe identify relevant vendors, data strategy, and so forth. And on the back of that, start with a POC. So to validate assumptions, to qualify the response times in the systems, optimize on the infrastructure footprint and many other aspects, and then scale the solution once we have qualified sort of the end-to-end setup on defined use cases, and then expand from there. I've been part of a number of industry cases where this has been the approach, and I think that's the safest and most robust way of doing it. So that would be my answer to the implementation journey.
Thank you, Kim. to what kind of extent are companies normally willing to invest in industrial supply chain traceability technologies, do you think? I mean, based on your experience.
So a lot of companies will have to, due to the regulation that's coming now. Until this point in time, I have not seen a lot of appetite, and I think that is related to what I mentioned a couple of times. It is a rather big a project or even a program to undertake. So there has to be a good business case, but I have seen a number of interesting business cases. I can talk about them on a more generic level. But for example, heavy industry companies have started doing this, not related to compliance, but because there is a solid business case, because they can manage their risk, they can manage their warranties, they can manage their forensics possibility. If they have a default component sitting in some equipment and you don't want to have any unnecessary downtime, you can have a look at a faulty product. You can go back and understand why did it go wrong, how many of these products have been impacted, and where they're sitting today, and then proactively go out and change these products either at a forced service, or put it into the planned service and say, remember to change this component because we have we suspect this one will default within a short period of time, and this way enhance the uptime of the systems in the operations. So that's a very solid business case. Also, for example, diversion, where you have multiple sales channels, third parties into different markets, but with different prices. It happens, for example, in the pharma industry, that these products, they move from a high price market to a high price market from a lower price market, but nobody can account for how did the products move from market A to market B. And if you have itemized traceability, you will be able to go back and understand, where were they last seen in that market where they're supposed to be, and then therefore it's easier to identify where's the problem and how can you help this, and that can be associated with significant amount of extra revenue. I've heard some stunning numbers, but I think that goes, it's individual from company to company. And I've seen a research document I shared on LinkedIn a week or two ago, where they implemented traceability in 2008, which is a while back, and said they had a break even within 2 years because of the optimized operation. So I think there's a number of business cases that supports traceability and reasons to do this.
Thanks a lot, Kim, for sharing. I think we have another question also from Capian. Would you like me to raise a question?
Hello.
Adam?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Get it?
Yeah. So really interesting topic with traceability, and yeah, it's really important. And from IT, some of us understand really good, but how, when constructing a business case, how can you quantify the results? Because basically that's one of the hardest thing to do, right? When you don't have traceability system and you need to invest 1 million euros, let's say that you need for multiple plants to implement the same system for traceability. How can you justify and quantify the end results when constructing the business case?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know exactly the business and the industry you're in, but what I have seen elsewhere is that the traceability program is broken down to sub-components, but that is a rather, can be a rather extensive exercise to actually understand how much scrap do we have from this production line versus the other production line, or how much waste do we have in the other end of the supply chain. For example, in the textile industry, it is known that they have maybe 30-40% of waste. So, eliminating that, optimizing your inventory. I have heard, and that is also public knowledge, so I can say that, for example, the textile industry when they have gone from just, normal inventory management to itemized inventory management, where each individual product has a unique ID, they have gone from an accuracy of 65% to close to 100%. So imagine if you have an inventory of X million 100 euros or whatever, and you can free up 30% of that as working capital that you can put elsewhere in the company. But that of course requires specific knowledge and data about each individual company, and that's not something that is very easy to do, but it's something that definitely can be done with the right investigation and collection of data and insights.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, time is unfortunately running out, so many thanks everyone for joining, and a special thanks of course to you, Kim, for sharing a lot of very interesting insights here. So with that, I wish you a fantastic weekend and hope to see you already next week on the PTC Talks, when we have a session around adapting to the evolution of automotive industry. So with that, take care everyone. See you next week. Bye bye.
Cheers. Goodbye.
Cheers.